The Monon Connection Museum is one man's private railroad collection. Dale Ward started collecting in 1993. We opened up in 2004, so there's over 6,500 mostly railroad items at the museum. Probably one of the largest private railroad collections that's shared with the public in the country. Kind of funny, Dale owned and operated stone quarries in this area. He did not come from a railroad family, but when he decided that when he'd retired, he wanted to collect something, and he thought the railroad was an important part of our country's history, and he was seeing people throw railroad items away and scrap them out, so he started collecting as a private collector at his home. One of his daughters told me she heard her mom say, "Dale, this is enough, get it out of here." So when that happened, he rented a couple of storage facilities, continued to collect in with the idea that he would open up a museum. So there are basically 4 rooms in the museum. One room is primarily dining car china and silver, so if you rode the trains 1930s up to the 1960s, traveling first class, you would eat off of china and silver that we have in one room. We've got over 20 different place settings. Again, probably one of the largest public displays of dining car china in the country. Also in that room there's switch lanterns or hand lanterns, and we've got over 280 of those in the museum. It's kind of interesting, in that particular room, there aren't 2 lanterns exactly the same. And so when people go through the museum, if they look at the clear glass globes, it'll have etched or embossed in glass the initials or names of the different rail lines, so that's the biggest difference in those lanterns. Another room has a model train layout that's 14 feet wide, 22 feet long. The room that we're in right now is 50 by 100 feet. It is full of lanterns, bells, whistles. Illinois Central depot that's a replica, but inside that depot is another man's collection. He went through 21 abandoned Illinois Central depots, was allowed to take what's in that depot. There's also track inspection worker vehicles in this room, some other equipment from the railroad. Our newest exhibit, our newest room, we call it the Flagler Room. That room has a car that was built in 1898-99. It was built for Henry Flagler. The car is 89 feet long, but we take people around and through that car. It's definitely a jewel as far as our museum is concerned. Flagler had 4 private touring cars. There are 2 known to still exist, and so we have car number 90 here at the museum. The railroad was so significant in the development of the United States, and as we progressed, I would say probably in the 60s, with more people owning cars and trucks, we didn't need passenger service as much. And so that kind of went by the wayside, but that was one way to get around. I mean, everybody didn't have a car or a vehicle to get around in. Now people have 2 or 3. And so it was important for transportation. And then to haul freight is the other biggie. If you had product off the Ohio River and you wanted to get it inland in Indiana, it was by a wagon, horse and wagon. The Monon Railroad, which is kind of our namesake, started in 1847 down in New Albany and ended up going basically north and south through the state of Indiana. I think the reason it's important to keep this history is because, I'll have kids walk in here, young adults, and not have a clue on what it took to get to where we're at today. Not too long ago, I had some guys from CSX Railroad that were in here that were working on a project down the rails, and they were in here to eat. And we let them come in and look around, and they were kind of laughing and joking, and I asked them why, and they said, well, we were all just complaining about how hard work had been that day. These guys really had to work. To realize what it took to build this country, it's important to keep that history. It's easy to punch buttons and get your information, but the guys that did this work were kind of learning on the fly. And so I think that's another reason it's important to keep this history. Not only railroad history, but aviation history, other forms of transportation, just so we can know where we started and where we're at now.